What is the best form of ownership for a food truck? Well, if you're looking to start your food truck business, which of course that's why you're here on Food Truck Freaks, we're going to give you a rundown of some of the 3 different options for the legal formation of your food truck. Could it be an LLC? Should it be a sole proprietorship? What are the pros and the cons? Well, here on Food Truck Freaks, we're going to break that down for you, and we're going to do that right now. All right, so welcome back to Food Truck Freaks. And in this video, let's going to get right to the point. We are going to break down some of the benefits and cons of actually forming your legal entity for your food truck. Now, many people actually go the sole proprietorship route. We're going to cover that and explain how that works. Some people do the LLC, and some people actually do the corporate C Corp. So what are the best benefits? Which one should you do, and which would be the best for your food truck business? So as you know, sole proprietorships, that's the Lone Ranger route, if you will. So let's kick things off with a little simplistic form of business ownership, and that's known as sole proprietorship. So you kind of picture this. You in your food truck in the open road, in essence, is all it is. As a sole proprietor, you're the boss, the employee, and everything else in between, which is a lot of times how food truck entrepreneurs take on this task of starting a food truck business. They go the sole proprietorship route. There's no complex paperwork, no sharing of profits with other people, just you making executive decisions on the fly and pretty much taking it as it comes. And creating your business as the day goes on. Now, some of the pros. Now, it's all pretty much you. Decision-making is swift, setup costs are low, tax filing is a breeze since business income is your income. That makes it really simple for you as far as your tax preparation. Now, some of the cons. Now, the flip side of it. Now, every pothole on the road of success is yours to navigate alone in this situation. So, liability is a significant concern. And if things go south, your personal assets actually are on the line, believe it or not, with sole proprietorships. Plus, raising capital can be a bit tougher than a $2 stake, as you solely bear every financial burden, because that's pretty much going to be you on your own, okay? Now let's go to the next one. This is one that a lot of food truck owners actually do as well, but it's actually more popular than sole proprietorships, believe it or not, partnerships. A lot of times you go into partnerships or businesses with your friend, maybe a brother, maybe a cousin, just 2 people, maybe you and your wife. So it's kind of known as the dynamic duo. It's kind of like if you thought of Batman and Robin, but in a food truck world. So a partnership is when 2 or more people come together to share the joys and, of course, sorrows of running that food truck business. Now, this can be a fantastic way to kind of pool your resources and share responsibilities, and you can combine your culinary talents. But let me give you a couple pros and cons into doing the partnership route for your food truck business. Okay, let's do in the pros. More hands are on deck, of course, which means shared responsibilities and potentially more capital and different ideas if you've got more than one person. It's a great way to leverage different strengths, making your food truck more versatile and robust, which could be actually, in the long run, really beneficial for your sales and growing the business. If you've got 2 heads coming together and kind of thinking of different ideas and bouncing off of each other, that's actually a really good benefit. Now, some of the cons about partnerships in the food truck world. Now, however, remember, great partnerships come with great responsibilities, and of course, disagreements can arise, and decision-making can be a little bit more complex when 2 people are wanting to make those decisions. I can attest to this because me and my wife own and operate our food business that we have for 14 years, and kind of butting heads, if you will, is something that happens on a daily basis in some cases. So it's kind of like sole proprietorships. Personal responsibility can still be an issue unless you opt for a limited partnership or a similar structure from a legal perspective. That is one of the cons that you have to think about. So in the beginning, with the idea of sole proprietorship, sounds great and stuff, but there's a lot of responsibility and financial potential burden laying on you personally. Next up, limited liability. Okay, the good old-fashioned LLC. This kind of like the best of both worlds in a sense. Now, if you enter an LLC, it's kind of like the best business structure in the world that blends kind of simplicity of sole proprietorships and a partnership with the liability protection, though, of a corporation. Actually, to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why I started my business as an LLC, my food business, and we actually evolved into an S Corp later because of the amount of money we were making. So an LLC for us was actually really good, okay? It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too, no pun intended, but to form the food truck with an LLC is also a much simpler tax form as well. Your accountant can definitely explain that to you in much more detail, but it's much more simple. So some of the pros, okay, number 1, the biggest thing, protection. So like your personal assets are safer from business liabilities, offering you kind of a little bit of peace of mind because it actually helps with the LLC will absorb any kind of legal actions or anything that would happen potentially down the road. Now, the flexibility in management and tax options are pretty sweet as well. The tax, actually anything that you get through your own taxes gets processed through your own social security number and it's known as a pass-through tax. So that's pretty good. Now, some of the cons, though. I don't want to sugarcoat it, if you will, but setting up an LLC is a little bit more complex and costly than doing the duo-dynamic route or the Lone Ranger sole proprietorship concept. There's a little bit more paperwork, of course, and depending on whether you're operating, the regulatory landscape can be a little more trickier to navigate than a food truck, okay? Now, the last one, that's kind of the biggest one, is the corporation. It's kind of, you can almost say, like the big leagues. This is big. So if you're looking to maybe franchise your food truck, or maybe you have a food truck that you're going to have 3 or 4 that you're going to own personally and just have people operate it for you, a corporation turns your food truck into its own legal entity. It separates from its owners, okay? So this is in the serious players aiming for expansion, looking for investors, and maybe even a fleet of trucks. That's going to be the corporate route, the big corporation, okay? Now, some of the pros, the liability protection, of course, is top-notch. Raising capital, if you're looking to expand, is a lot easier with the ability to issue even stock, believe it or not. So you're kind of playing in the big leagues now when you go for the corporate structure, with this structure that supports growth for investors and investor confidence. Okay, so down the road, if you're looking for people to invest in your big company, you definitely want to go this route. Now, some of the cons: the complexity and the costs. Corporations are the most challenging and expensive form of legal entities. Heavy regulations, a lot of paperwork, a lot of formalities, and et cetera, et cetera. It becomes a little bit complicated. So, corporation is one of them. I personally would not recommend that unless, like you said, you're going to go down the road and have like 4 or 5 trucks, and it's a much bigger business. I would stay away from that. So, what's the best form of ownership for your food truck? The answer is varied, as the menu on your gourmet food truck is, but it boils down to your goals, risk tolerance, and how you envision your food truck journey to unfold. So if you crave simplicity and you want full control, okay, sole proprietorship would be a good way to go. You want to share the ride with someone else, you might want to look into a partnership. Now, if you're seeking for a little balance between, of course, flexibility and protection, maybe you've got a couple people that you're working with, an LLC would be probably the one you want to go. Now, if you're aiming to expand your food trucks and you want to reach more people and have more employees, the corporation filing would be one you want to go with. Okay? So there's not really a one-size-fits-all for this solution. It just depends on your budget, the risks you want to take, and then how much time you want to spend with paperwork. So that would basically be the best common sense that I can offer in regards to how to form your food truck business and figuring out which one is best for you.